Tonight we are talking about the hypersexualization of women in games. Which basically is what we always end up talking about at some point generally. So we might as well talk about it as a whole topic. And I'm going to let all of you kick off, whoever's just going to shout out first, with what are our worst examples we've seen? What are the worst examples we've seen? What do we actually mean by the hypersexualization of women in gaming? So, Alex, what do you think?
Okay, well, in my notes, I've put down, this is the one example I could probably talk about the most, which would be, of course, Lara Croft in Tomb Raider, being a fan of Tomb Raider since the 1990s.
That Lara Croft there.
Yes, that Lara Croft there. And I think probably the worst examples, as that screenshot shows, is actually from the marketing around the games rather than in the games themselves, especially early on. If you look at the in-game sort of character of Lara, you know, with all the polygons where it shows her as she was in Tomb Raider 1, it's not actually too bad when you look at the images.
I mean, I think she could do with longer shorts.
Compared.
I feel those aren't practical for climbing around a tomb.
No, I would say not.
Get scratches, cuts.
You get scrapes all over your knees and everything. Just not good. But yeah, no, I could probably do quite a deep dive on Tomb Raider because, as I say, I've been playing it since the mid-90s. But I think I wrote down 3 examples from the classic series of things that stood out to me. The first of which is the very end of Tomb Raider 2, where Lara, after you've completed the game and there's a bunch of thugs that come around her house and you have to get rid of them all. And she's taking a shower and about to strip off and then turns to the camera, breaks the 4th wall and says, "I think you've seen enough, don't you?" And then points the shotgun at the screen, which I thought was quite a cool example of breaking the 4th wall. But it's all the boys could talk about in the playground at primary school. I remember whenever conversations came up was to press triangle to see her boobs at the end of the game. I don't think it actually worked ever, but yeah, that was the main topic of conversation. And then I think it was Tomb Raider Chronicles, so that was like the 5th game in the classic series. There's a level you play as a Lara who's 16 years old, and in the cutscene before the mission, you see her just as she's about to take her top off, so she's got this far, and then stops because someone knocks on the door. And then the last example, which I think is probably one that would need to come with a content warning, because I was quite uncomfortable when I watched it, was in Tomb Raider Angel of Darkness, where the character Curtis, who's this playable male character, comes in and he sort of searches her for weapons, but from behind, and his hands sort of come round her and slide over her tummy and stuff, and it's just creepy. I remember I must have been about, I don't know, maybe 13 or so when I played it the first time, and I just remember thinking, gosh, I think Lara must be feeling very uncomfortable right now, and just feeling generally uncomfortable watching it. So
yeah, and I think that's something particularly as women gamers, as feminist gamers, though, is like, I think that people don't get, oh, you're just making a fuss about boobs. It's like, well, no, actually, it's the fact we genuinely feel uncomfortable.
It was something that was meant to be sexy, like the introduction of the character of Curtis, but it just ended up feeling really wrong.
It's like
really
James
uncomfortable.
Bond. You can't watch James Bond movies for pretty much the same reason. But anyway, that's a completely different area of discussion. Matt, what would you like to tell us about the most egregious examples of hypersexualization of women?
So probably the one that I have mentioned multiple times since we've started even the initial phase of talking about this podcast. It is Quiet from the Metal Gear Solid series. Have you got a picture for us?
I do. There we go.
There's picture number 1. So,
and again, a very impractical outfit, I feel, for the situation, but also not really an outfit. That is underwear. That is literally underwear.
There's a very interesting piece of plot, which is why she looks like that. But the takeaway of context, she's a woman just entirely meant to be just utterly sexy, and she doesn't speak as well. See, egregious. I think egregious was the word that we wrote down. Yeah. So in the when we were like texting, talking about getting ready for this, and I was thinking about the sort of the funny side, because Quiet, it's a bit funny because it's so over the top. Lara Croft, it's a bit funny. But then what I hope we're going to go into is the darker side of it, the side that Alex just mentioned about a man frisking a 16-year-old girl, and the fact that Quiet is tortured and she is almost raped, and that she is beaten, that she doesn't have a voice, when these sexualizations of women are sending a dangerous message to particularly men and young men. So young men in their formative years, perhaps, coming across these things. I think, oh, this is supposed to be sexy because this is aimed at me, like the Lara Croft turning around in the shower thing. That was something. Probably a man wrote that scene. A man created Lara Croft. A man animated that scene. So it's men creating content for men in the sort of content that they want to see. Yeah, so that's
and I have to say, like, uploading all the photos and videos that you guys sent me, not much fun. Some of it, I have to say, is like, you know, it's all sort of laughs and stuff. I mean, Crash Bandicoot, that one's made me laugh a lot, but it's the darker side of it, which we will talk about more. But Jem, what's your worst example then? Hypersexualization of women in video games.
Well, I think you have covered it really. I mean, Lara Croft is probably the one that stands out the most for me, just in what I've come across. But I do find the characters in Final Fantasy, the Final Fantasy series, quite problematic for various reasons. But I recently played Final Fantasy 15. I always get the numbers wrong, and I found Cindy, the mechanic, in that game.
This one?
No, she's the yellow. She's got yellow.
That's T for Lockhart.
Yeah. Yeah, there you go. That's Cindy. Yeah. It's interesting, actually, because my daughter came in when I was looking at these images, and she was just like, aha, when she came in. So even she recognized that it was something about it. And I think the thing is that, I mean, it's more of a problem in this game, because this game is about 5 young men going around having an adventure, and it's sort of the lads and on tour really, and they're the only female characters in the game are Cindy, and then you've got Luna Freya, who's the damsel in distress, and she always wears white. So you've got a lot of the stereotypical characters. Yeah, that's Luna Freya on the left there, and so I think that's where it's that sort of subtle, just there as you're playing along. Oh, it's fine that she's wearing this ridiculous outfit. And when I was looking for images, I found so many pictures where people had deliberately lined up the characters so that it would make it look like one of the characters was looking down her top. You know, that it opens up the characters in the games to be sexually harassed by the players, and I'm not very comfortable with that. And I think, you know, there is a distinct there's a lot of evidence to suggest that there is a link between, you know, those playing at that kind of behavior and then going out into the world. I'm not saying that computer games cause violent crime, but, you know, there is something about, you know, it's okay. This is an objectification of women in this way is not just acceptable, but it's fun. It's a game. It's an okay thing.
Yeah, I mean, I mentioned the Donkey. Who uploaded the Donkey Kong example?
No one's owning up.
No one's admitting that. All right, fine. Well, it's on there. And the thing is like, I mean, it does open it up to even lovely characters. So I was looking for my examples of some nice normal characters. I was trying to find a nice picture of the women of Stardew Valley. I just Google image searched the women of Stardew Valley. Dear God. How many mods are there out there to tart up the women of Stardew Valley and give them huge breasts and all this stuff? And I think it's one of those things that there is almost a pressure on game makers to do. So I quite often talk about, I love playing 7 Days to Die. Shouldn't do. It's a terrible game. I hate the developers in so many ways, but I do like playing the game. It's a post-apocalyptic world. You get the zombies, you get to build, you get to do whatever you like. I like those games where I can create my own house and spend time doing things and and kill zombies. And one of the traders that exists in this post-apocalyptic world is Trader Jen. And 7 Days to Die has been in alpha for about a century. And in Alpha 17, Trader Jen looked like a normal person. And then Alpha 19 came out and... Oh, I put the wrong picture up now. And there, you see, now that is my comparison of what Jen used to look like on the left. And then what did all those developers spend that time doing? They made her cans bigger. And lessened the doctor aspect and made her look more like a nurse and all this stuff. And it's just... It's tiresome when you're playing games as a woman to have to constantly look at this stuff. So why do we think?
Can I?
Sure.
One thing.
Interject.
As the token male,
yes.
I was thinking before anyone thinks, "Oh, who is this holier than thou man who thinks he's the best feminist who ever has existed and he's got no flaws?" If I was on the Guilty Feminist, I would say I'm a feminist, but when I was younger, all of this stuff was awesome to me. I loved the shit out of it. And even now, I love naked women. Naked women are great. I'll come clean on that. But it's completely fine for any straight cis men listening. It's completely fine to like naked women, as long as you recognize the reality that is being shared behind it and the problems